You're listening to Melanated Rising, Episode 7. On this show, we inspire, uplift, and ignite Black, Brown, Indigenous, and other people of color creatives and athletes. Here, we have open and honest conversations on topics and issues affecting us as people of color, as creatives of color, and how to take what limits us and turn it into what ignites us and our creative work. Every episode is an exploration into what is possible when Black and Brown creatives stand in our undeniable power. I'm your host, Kristen Iris.
And I'm Deborrah Ashley.
Welcome to Melanated Rising. Oh, thank you for those of you who are listening or watching. If you're watching the video feed, we are back for another episode. And this time we are focused a little more on our Black and Brown entrepreneurs, talking today about standing out as a person of color entrepreneur. And Deborrah Ashley is an expert in this. So if you don't know her, let me introduce you to her. Deborrah Ashley, known for showing people how to leverage their it factor, helps her clients package and position their expertise and ideas into high value offers. Nearly 4 years ago, Deborah left the corporate world after a 2-decade career to live out her purpose and hasn't looked back since. She is a consultant, educator, and advocate for women over 40 who are ready to impact the world. A former board member of the National Black MBA Association, Deborah has raised brand awareness for companies for over 2 decades and has helped organizations generate over $400 million in sales revenue. To date, she has built 3 highly profitable businesses, been in Oprah magazine and the New York Times, and has helped over 100 entrepreneurs build awareness around their personal brand. So as you can guess by that, I am really excited to have Deborah here with us. Welcome to the podcast. How are you today?
I'm fabulous. Thanks for having me on. This is exciting.
Yes, I am so excited to have you on and talking about leveraging your it factor. And one of the reasons, I'm going to be honest, full transparency, is because I feel in some ways like I struggle with this. Like, I know what makes me different. I know like who it is that I want to focus on and who I want to help. But I feel like sometimes I'm not really communicating that well enough and I'm not distinguishing it. And I know that I cannot be the only one. So I was so happy to have you on and so glad that you wanted to come on and talk about this. So I want you to start. Tell us more about like, what is your it factor? You know, let's just dive in there. What is your it factor as an entrepreneur? You know, a person's it factor.
Sure. So the it factor is more of, you know, when we talk about the je ne sais quoi, it's something that, and, you know, a lot of us have the it factor. I can't say all of us have it, or all of us doesn't show it. It's that thing. It's a combination of what you're naturally good at and what you're passionate about. So, you know, if you think about those innate qualities that comes pretty easy to you, that you don't even think that's valuable, but a lot of people are really like impressed by, that is your it factor. And a lot of times, you know, we keep it hidden because we're not impressed by it as much as other people are.
Okay. All right. So do you give an example, like something that people may not think of?
Okay. So let's think about, I'll give obviously a popular example. If we think about Oprah, her it factor is being able to connect people and allow them to open up and make them feel comfortable. Because if, you know, when we think back to her show where there'd be, you know, she had a section on her show where she was just featuring celebrities, and a lot of them would say, wow, you have me talking about things that I would never talk about. I think for you, your it factor is being able to allow people to have conversations that they would typically be uncomfortable having. That would be yours. And it's probably something that's just innate to you where you're like, oh, I've always been that way where, you know, it's almost like, I think online we talk about the safe space, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just giving yourself, obviously the ones who are not open to the type of conversations, you let them know that where the door is. But it's allowing those people, certain people to feel safe, not only to understand what we're going through, because not everyone does, but you educate those who don't understand, but you allow other people to talk about things that they typically feel that they wouldn't, that they would be judged for.
Okay. Yeah.
So I
So
hope that's clear.
it's funny that you say that because I agree with you. Like as you were talking, like that thing that you don't think is special, but other people are like, oh man, this is different. I was like, I kind of like I do that. I do it in my coaching, but I do it with people around me where they start talking and they're like, why am I telling you this? And I'm like, don't
Right,
worry, it happens. People do this all
right,
the time. I'm like, I don't know what it is. There's just something about me. People just want to like tell me things. And they're like, but like, I don't share this. I'm like, I know, it's okay. Just go with it. Just go with it.
right, right.
Yes.
Don't feel self-conscious now. It's okay. You can open up.
Yeah,
I
you're like,
think
it's already out. It's already out. You already talked. So just keep
exactly. I think the hard thing with the online space, especially with what you do, it's almost like, there's a lot that people do want to talk about, but we have this, and I don't care about it, and neither do you. But we have this thing where we're going to lose clients, or we're not going to be as successful as we should be if we really talk about what's on our minds. So it's really about educating or even allowing other people to say, no, it's okay, you can have your differences. Clearly we're not going to, I wouldn't even care to have certain clients who are like, let's be for real, with Trump supporters. I don't need them to be my clients. But I think once we're able to get people to understand that it's okay to talk about certain things online, and you shouldn't, because I think there's a lot of coaches that tell people, don't talk about religion, don't talk about your truths, your real truths. Don't talk about the things that you're actually going through. Don't talk about, who you really
politics.
want to support, or you're gonna lose clients. But at what point does someone step up, and that person's probably most likely you? At what point does someone step up and say, no, it's okay to talk about this stuff. It's okay to mention this, and you can still, be successful. And I think someone has to step up and be that person that leads the way to show entrepreneurs that you can still be successful, and you can still be happy, and you can still have the life that you want to lead, if you bring up whatever subjects you want.
Yeah, I agree, and I think, I mean, obviously I agree, but when I first started moving more into the online space, because my first businesses were more like in person yoga, body work related,
Hmm.
and so when I started moving into the online space and wanting to take what I was doing with people on the mat into more of coaching, I was like, oh, I can't talk about this. I can't talk about that. I can't talk about politics. I'm going to scare people away. And I was like, oh, after a while, it wasn't even that long. It wasn't even a while. It was maybe a couple months. I was just like, I am so tired of trying to be this delicate little flower, because that sure the fuck is not who I am. And when
Right.
you start working with me, if you're looking for a delicate flower, you're sure as shit not going to like me. And I'm going to
Exactly.
hold you to your bullshit, and I'm going to hold you accountable. And so I need to show that, and I need to show where I stand politically, because I don't need certain clients, like it's going to make
Exactly.
me feel uncomfortable working with certain clients, and
Right.
they're going to feel the same way with me. So like, why would I try to hide that? And
Hmm.
having that voice and speaking up online about just like kind of where I stand or what I feel about certain things, it does let other people know that they can do the same thing. And
Right.
yeah, there are going to be people who are like, oh, I don't want to follow that person anymore, or I don't want to work with that person anymore. And that's okay, because what you're
Right.
doing also is you're creating space for the people who are like, wow, she just said something that really resonated with me. I need to go work with her. Like
Exactly.
that's you're going to start bringing in, is the people who are
Exactly.
really resonating with what you have to say,
Right.
or your experience as a human. Like even if it's not something political, it's like, oh, I'm really struggling here, and that I still kind of worry about, like if I'm like, oh, like my finances aren't quite where I want, or I'm not like bringing in the like the number of clients that I want, or something like that. It's like, I don't want, sometimes you feel like you don't want to share that because it makes you look unsuccessful, and it's like none of that has
Right.
anything to do with my skills as a coach. Finances
Exactly.
actually don't even have to do with any of that either. It's just, this is where I'm at, or this is where I'm at in my business. And um, people are afraid to show that. And
Mhm.
sometimes I'm still afraid to show that, gonna be totally honest.
Yeah,
But
we all are.
yeah, but at the same time, it lets, like, when one of my coaches last year, said, she posted recently, about how she's been putting up this facade and how everything's great and she's making all this money. And she's like, but what I'm not talking about is how I racked up $40,000 of debt last year making all this money. And now I have all this credit card debt and I'm having these relationship issues. And I was like, wow, I'm not the only one who's got
you feel okay.
Yeah,
right.
I'm like, oh, I'm not the only one who's got debt. I'm like, if my coach is dealing with this too, like some of these financial challenges, it's like, it makes it okay. And it makes it feel like, okay, I'm not doing like as bad as I thought I was, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I was actually talking to my father. I know this doesn't deal with the it factor, but it's really, just being, even if when we talk about trailblazers, being okay with opening up those type of conversations. So when we even talk about, I think it was, I can't remember what show it was, but you know how when women first have babies and no one else is talking about the postpartum depression or everything else, where it's like, I'm not a good mom. Everyone's talking about this is the most beautiful thing in the world. And this is a best experience and all that wonderful stuff. And here are probably half the population of women thinking, okay, what am I doing wrong? And what's wrong with me? Because that's not my same experience. But now all of a sudden, a lot of women are discussing all these things that they're going through, from the point of, okay, I think I made the mistake. What am I going to do now? I'm afraid as a mom. I don't even know if I like my baby. So now a lot of people are okay being able to say that they too experience that and they don't feel alone. I think the biggest thing for us, especially as women, is to, and that's not everyone's going to be opening up or brave enough to admit that they're going through it. But the ones who are, now it gives room for the other women who are beating up on themselves because they think they're alone in it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I call those that. So that's part of leveraging your it factor too. It's the things that, and if that comes naturally to you where you are, I don't call it outspoken because people use outspoken in a negative term. But if you are the brave soul that you can talk about things that you know that you should be talking about, you're an advocate for your community. It is okay to talk about it, and that's going to draw more people to you.
Yes. So then here's my question, because I feel like part of this, and I don't know, but like from my experience, that part of this challenge in speaking up is especially as like people of color, as women of color, is not being clear on who we really want to work with, or having an assumption that we're almost like a subconscious assumption that we're supposed to be catering to white people. Because from my experience in, especially like around a year ago, realizing that like unintentionally I was catering to white people, because in online spaces, that's where I was. That's right. Who I was around. All these like groups and entrepreneur groups, they were so white dominated. Like many of the leaders in the industry, in the coaching industry and spirituality industry, are white leaders. And so that's who I was talking to a lot of white people. And I was kind of like, man, I really want to help women of color. And so there's this assumption of I'm coming into this space that's already white dominated. So there's already these people here. And then a lack of like really owning necessarily who it is that we want to actually speak to. Because once I own, like, actually, I really want to help women of color. And then at the beginning of this year was like people of color, like not necessarily just women. I didn't really care about the things that I was saying bothering white people.
Right.
I stopped caring about that because they weren't my people. They're not the people that I'm even trying to have as clients or attract. I'm trying to attract the people who are going to listen to what I'm saying and say, wow, that's been my experience too, because they're people of color, and to see that I understand them. And so I think part of that struggle is like this kind of lack of clarity on who it is that we're trying to talk to, but an assumption that we have to fit into a white space. So what's been like your experience with that, or your client's experience with that, if you got anything on that?
I think it's kind of different. It's a little different for me. I grew up in the suburbs in Long Island, so it's not, I'm used to whether I'm the only one in the room or you go to a restaurant. I don't feel the difference. The only difference I feel, because I've grown up in New York, we all played together. Like my best friend growing up was from Venezuela, Dominican Republic, all the other stuff. So I don't think or maybe I didn't know about this whole prejudice thing. I didn't experience it or know too much about it. So I think it's people like you that educated me more about that. I didn't know anything about centering. Obviously, now that I understand the term, I'm like, oh, I do see it. One thing that I learned rather quickly in the online space, and it was something that I experienced in the workplace too, was the whole thing that if you speak up for yourself, or, let's give an example. I remember there were times, it was a whole thing when this is when Obama was still in office, and it was like a lot, almost back to back to back with the police brutality. And you could see who would, and there's the white women who were okay speaking out against it and posting about it. So it was kind of clear who were posting about it, or who waited to post about it because it was on trend. Now we're on trend, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, which is a
trend.
great thing.
Oh, let me jump on and be an ally, because that's cool, and that's what people are looking for. Are you actually an ally? Because it doesn't really count if you're just faking the funk.
Exactly. It can't just be because now you want to win clients. So I remember there was this one lady who reached out to me on private message. I can't remember what she was talking about, and it was she was trying to fight a cause, and she was like, "I want you to support me." And I was like, "Well, I'm going to let you know that I'm not going to. I don't make things up. I mean, I don't sugarcoat things." So I said, "I want to let you know the truth that when there was a time," and I kind of mentioned a case, police brutality. I said, "I didn't see you speak up at all." She was like, "Well, I see everyone as human beings. We're a human race. It shouldn't matter." I said, "Yeah, but why would this matter?" So I get, the conversation went on, and all of a sudden she felt attacked. So I have my line now. Yeah, so I was like, "You are not a victim, and I'm not going to allow you," because I already know when they're about to go into victim mode. Mm-hmm. So I said, "You're not a victim, and I'm not going to allow you to become a victim." And then she blocked me. So then you
white fragility.
Right. So I didn't even know. Yeah, I didn't know any of these terms. I didn't know anything about that. So for me, I just have the regular conversations that I have, but now I am a little bit more cognizant of who I'm now going to invest and give my money to, because it's investing, but it's giving my money, and I have a bunch of choices. So whether I want to invest with one person or the other, now I am very specific that if I don't see you even speaking out, and I could see you as like the best in the world, and you have that success that you talk about, but you don't get my money if you don't, if you're not speaking out at least, a little bit on particular issues. Mm-hmm. So that's that. Did I answer your question? I think I went off on a tangent. But
I almost don't even remember what my question was now. Oh, about having to fit into like white spaces, and
yeah.
I know I don't even remember my own question. I was so into what you were saying.
Yeah, so I never felt like, I never really feel out of place. I never really feel like conversations are not they don't include me, because I just naturally walk and I'm like, I belong here. So but clearly I remember I spoke to, when I first got online, and I didn't know this whole thing about there's probably some women of color who won't work with you. They'd rather work with a white woman, right? So I never knew this whole thing existed. And I remember this one, and I was in this group, and I really, when I get in groups, I really stand out, because I post all the time, because it's fun having conversations. So this other Black woman, she kind of mentioned to me, I don't remember what we were talking about. The subject came out. She was like, both of us would be millionaires, 7-figure coaches by now, if we, this is bad to say, but whatever. She said if we were both blonde, we both had blonde hair and blue eyes. And I was like, wow. And I never really caught on to that. And I started to notice that.
I mean, so, yeah, it's true.
Yeah, that's the only stuff that, I'm not going to say it hurts, but it's kind of tough. Like, it's kind of tough to see that going on. But it is what it is, we just have to do what we have to do. And eventually, it'll get to the point where, when things are meant to be for us, it will be for us. But I think that's the tough thing, like seeing that. And I think society has always been like that. You're more valued. Here's the difference. And I spoke to a 7-figure coach who, she doesn't necessarily speak out about those issues. And she told me why. She gave an example of Beyonce. If you think about when Beyonce first came out, she kind of fit in, right? Mm-hmm. And now what she's doing, like, she's really making a statement because she got to that level. So the 7-figure coach was telling me there's this really popular coach that a lot of women will go to first to work with. But apparently with her work, it doesn't really produce results. So now a lot of those members of that one coach, it's like a huge program. They now come to her because of this one person who gave her a chance and she got results and she made it okay. So the one white lady came to her, got results, and she opened the door for the other ones to say, okay, it's okay to work with her. So it's almost like, it's weird like that. Like we almost have to get permission from another white woman to say, okay, it's okay. You can work with Debbie. She's actually a good person and she's safe to work with. You experience stuff like that?
Well, I don't work with white people, so
Okay.
I very specifically exclusively work with people of color.
Right. That's true. Yeah.
But I'm glad that you brought that up, because that's when I first started, there was someone, and it was just like women, like, oh, I'm working with women, or actually before that I was working with writers, fiction writers. So it was like any race, any gender. And I had someone who messaged me and they were like, I see what you're doing and that you're a woman of color. Like, how do you navigate that? Because I feel like people second guess us because we're women and two, we're women of color. So people are less inclined to like believe that we're experts. They're less inclined to trust us. Like we have to prove ourselves more. And I was like, yeah, you're right. But I don't know what it was, but at that time I'm like, you're right, but I just don't let that bother me. Like I know that it's true, but I also know that there is no one like me. And so I just keep moving forward. And but that it was still something that was sticking with her enough for her to say it. And that being one of the first questions makes me think, like, how many other people are feeling that? And unlike me are like, I'm not gonna let that bother me because I know that I can show that I'm good at what I do. And they're like, how do I prove myself? How do I prove myself? And then they start kind of shaping themselves into something that's a little different, a little less authentic, because they want to appeal to the white masses.
Right.
And I think that's one of the challenges that is going to like destroy our it factor. Like it pulls us away from our it factor because we're trying to, as people of color and women of color in particular, because we have those two intersections, because we're trying to show how valuable we are, and we're trying to hold up against white people instead of just holding up against ourselves. Like how many people are now killing their it factor or turning themselves into kind of the same thing that's already out there because they want to appeal to the masses instead of just actually being themselves and being authentic.
Yeah, I think there's like a fine line between you. I mean, I think it still requires playing the game a little bit and then, of course, being authentic. But playing the game in my mind is, because I think, I'm not sure if everyone's like this, but, just growing up, we're kind of taught to like, put our head down, do the work and be modest. But now it's like almost forcing yourself. I tell my clients this, it's almost forcing yourself to do what you think is bragging. So you're going to talk about yourself a lot, but it's talking about yourself to the point where you're like, okay, I'm sick of this. But when you do that, you being sick of it to the person reading it, because, it's online. Not everyone's online at the same time, and not everyone's going to read all of your posts. So by the time you do that so much, and you're not lying or anything, you're talking about your accomplishments, you're showing results, you're showing social proof. That person you're trying to attract, maybe they've seen one or two of your posts, but you have to constantly be talking about yourself and your accomplishments and what you've done and how you're different. But I know because it's your it factor, it's just like, oh, this is easy for me. Like, why do I need to talk about this? It's just something that comes natural. But that's when you have to add that element of playing the game, because you have to. Like, if you want to get business, like you have to really put it out there as much as you can. So I think the key is really to identify what your it factor is and be very clear on it. And then like leverage that and push it out there. And then like something that I do and I tell my clients to do, like an example is, with Serena, with, the cat suit versus the tutu thing.
Oh my God.
So I wrote a post.
I love her, by the way. She is a goddess.
I know
Yesterday I was
you
like,
never.
it's on my bucket list to meet her. I think I would die. I think I would just burst into tears and be like, oh my God, I'm meeting Serena.
Yeah, because she's probably like the most modest person in the world, but it's like, at what point are you gonna let? I'm not like you've accomplished so much. At what point are you gonna let an association tell me that I can't wear something? It's for her health.
Yeah.
Wasn't it because she has her baby? She had a baby and a blood clot or something
Yeah,
like that.
it's so like the leggings, like the legging part of her outfit were to help promote circulation so that she wouldn't get blood clots so that she could
Exactly.
actually play. And
Yeah.
so they were like, "Oh, you have to respect the game." And I'm like, she's wearing something that makes it actually her makes her physically able to play the game. Like, I know that sounds like respecting the game, but maybe
Well,
I'm wrong.
but she almost like created this new found respect for the game now, because there's so many people who watch tennis who never even cared about tennis before. So the way she leverages her it factor, and for me, it's part of like standing out as an authority too. So she'll say, we have both. We have Maxine Waters is like that, and so we have Serena too, right? Serena will do something that you're like, oh wow, I can't believe she even did that. No one else in the industry does that. Another thing that she does is she's showing men, women, and even little kids that you can be successful by being yourself. I'm not sure. So I get kind of like in the beginning, she played the game because she had to get to a certain level first before she could do any of that. But it's probably also a confidence thing. So she's like, listen, this is not. And first of all, she's bringing in so much money for the tennis federation
Yeah,
or association. So
seriously.
this is not messing with your money at all. This is actually bringing in more people. So not only is she helping like little kids, men and women, everyone know that you can be successful by being yourself. She's not letting anyone tell her, how to be and what to do and how to act. And she's still staying, she's in integrity. She's not breaking rules. She's not being disrespectful. She didn't wear the cat suit. They didn't want her to wear the cat suit. Nike was like, okay, we'll find something else for you. So I think it's more of a thing. And then the strong thing about that when you're playing the game, because that can mess with you mentally when now you have someone, it's adult bullying, let's face it. So now you have someone messing with you and messing with your head, and you're like playing this game, and then you're playing this game, and you're like, okay, is someone going to say something about my outfit now, or is someone going to have a problem with me? But like all of that stuff, and of course, thankfully, her father grew her up to think like that. But I think when you're standing out, especially as a woman or a woman of color, you have to be in that space where you're like, I can't care what anyone else thinks. You're thinking of the bigger picture. I'm not sure what her bigger picture is. Maybe it is to impact the world, but you're really thinking about the bigger picture. And those are your clients that are really watching you, and they're excited that you're winning. They're excited that, for her, it's like little brown kids who are like, wow, I could be a tennis champ one day. So that kind of gets me emotional. But yeah, so people like that, I think a little piece of it is playing the game and then being able to use, like Omarosa is. A lot of people don't like Omarosa, but I'm kind of like, yes, girl. So being able to play in the game to fit in and then use it to get what you really, really want to do, So it's really thinking long term and in the long run.
Yeah. Now with Serena, I think there's with her, and I don't know because I don't know her and I haven't talked to her, but looking at her, I think I get this feeling that like it also comes to a point where you get tired of people shitting on you, and you're like, look, I'm stunting. There's nothing you can do to stop me, and I'm just gonna show you that. Since you still have a problem with me, no matter what I accomplish, here, let me just show you how awesome I am. And not in like a prove yourself kind of way, but in like a, you know what, people have been shitting on her for years. They were talking about her body. They talked about how like this rivalry with Maria Sharapova or whatever her name is, that is not a rivalry at all because she hasn't beat her in years. Serena just keeps killing the game. And it's like, I think after a while, like for me, after a while, I'd be like, you guys really think you can keep shitting on me? Okay, let me actually show you how much I can do. Let me actually show all these
about,
people,
right?
yeah, let me give you something to talk about. Let me show all these other people who are fans of me, who are looking up to me, exactly what they can do. And I think when you get to a certain level, you have that kind of power to be like, okay, you guys have been talking shit for years, and that's fine. But literally, no matter how much shit you talk, you can't stop me.
Exactly.
Like,
because it's surprising that after that episode, she came back and she won. I mean, that's some serious mindset work.
yeah.
But it's motivation too. It's motivation because she clearly knows the game. That she clearly knows what that guy was doing. So I mean, it's just motivation to keep going. But it's kind of like, it's scary and it's kind of sad that it's like I'm bringing so much money into this space and like you have issues with me. But it's life. That's life.
Yeah. And especially as like not just a woman of color, but a Black woman specifically, it's like, this is the stuff that happens to us all the time. And we're seeing it on this big scale. And I think it's really valuable and important for someone like her to be doing what she's doing, because she is showing like, hey, I actually don't have to take your shit. Like, exactly. I'll find other ways around it. You know why? Because I'm awesome. That's how awesome I am. And it's great. Like, me looking at her, I'm like, even though I don't play tennis and I don't like I'm an athlete, I've been an athlete my whole life, but I don't have like elite athlete aspirations anymore. Right. I used to, I don't anymore. I'm still like, there's part of me that's like, I want to be Serena when I grow up, but in like different ways.
You could be like a performance coach.
Yeah, like like in other ways, I want to be like Serena, so in like my creative endeavors and just like the way she just stands up and she's like, no, I'm really in control of this game. So move over, exactly. And that's what I want to be in like the industries that I'm moving into, which are like entertainment and film related, and just be like, move it. Right. I'm putting a table right here, and every chair is going to be filled with Black and brown people, and you're just going to have to deal with it.
Exactly. You can either hang with us or you can go somewhere else, but we're going to be here regardless.
Yeah, budge over. Right. No, I need more space for the table. It's a big table. It's a really big table.
Right. So that's cool.
Yeah.
It's almost like you think like if she had just came back the next day and just wore obviously the uniform, right? We wouldn't have noticed, but we really like, she was like, I'm going to make people notice. We're going to make people take notice. So it's cool.
Yeah. I love that tutu. And she, because like I said, the cat suit was to help promote her circulation. I guess the fishnet, like she was wearing like fishnet tights with it, that do the same thing, like compression fit nets that do the same thing. So she was still, and it was the US Open. So I don't know if the US Open still had those rules. I don't really know how that works between that. And I believe it was the French Open that was having thrown a hissy fit, but she looked so good in it too. I loved it. I was like, oh my God. Please wear that tutu everywhere.
Motivation.
Oh yes. When I see Black women in particular just standing out like that, it just lets the rest of us know how unstoppable we actually are.
Yeah.
Like how much we can actually do.
So I guess it is kind of like a game of chess. Kind of like, you chill a little bit, sneak a little bit in the room and then just show up. Show everyone that you're just like, I'm here, surprise. So it's interesting.
I think I'm so a little rebellious to playing the game. And I think that's because I tried to do that in the beginning. And I was just like, oh, my voice is not coming out. It's like I was frustrated with all the things I wasn't saying. And then I was just like, oh, fuck it. And so now I'm just like, take me as I am. Somebody will. So, but yeah, I get what you mean. So in terms of like your it factor, like the actual leveraging of it, what are some, because I feel like I know my it factor, but I'm not, the leveraging part is where I'm getting stuck. So like, how do you leverage that thing that's special about you?
Here's where, so just our conversation, here's where I think you could make a huge impact that you're probably not paying attention to. You said you used to be an athlete, right?
I'm an athlete. I'm not an elite athlete, but I'm an athlete.
An athlete's an athlete. It takes time to take discipline. I could see you as a performance coach. So I could see you as a performance coach. I could see you as a person who you're helping other women who kind of feel lost in their body, lost in their mind, lost in the world telling them who they should be and how they should act. And really getting into a space where you're just like, I don't care. This is who I am. Either take it or leave it. But either way, I'm going to show up how I am. Like, that's where I see like your big it factor. That, I don't know, are you leveraging that?
Well, that's what I felt like. That's what I do as a coach. Like when I'm working with clients. So I focus on like creatives, like any kind of creative, athletes, entrepreneurs, which to me
Mm-hmm.
is all under that umbrella. Because even as athletes, you have to be really creative with like how you train, with the different moves that you do so that you can actually excel to the level that
Right.
you want to. And so when I work with people, I work with them. I'm like, okay, let's get to the actual root of what's holding you back so that you're not trying to conform. You're really standing out and taking big action in the ways that you want to. But I don't know how to, I guess more in like the online space, how to leverage that in a way where like people are really understanding what I do.
More interviews.
Okay.
More
I
interviews.
love doing
I think the
podcast
best.
interviews. So I love being on other people's podcasts. So that and like
Yeah.
speaking are things that like I just did my first like live speaking event a week and a half ago, and it was amazing. And so like speaking and doing
Nice.
more interviews are things that I really want to do. So interviews are a way to like so that people can get clear on what I do.
Yeah, I would do like even IGTV, obviously Instagram. Facebook has a new platform with the talk show type thing, right?
Yeah, you got to apply for that. Like everybody can't do it because I've already applied
Oh,
twice, and they
oh,
like
gotcha,
have
gotcha.
not. Yeah, they have not rolled it out to the masses. I'm like, come on.
So then I would create your own that doesn't, obviously it doesn't have to be the Facebook themed one, but I would create your own. I think for you being able to leverage it is for people seeing you interact with people and doing like maybe mini coaching sessions. It's not
Okay.
obviously going to be full coaching sessions, but I think seriously it will become crystal clear to people once you start doing that live one-on-one with different people.
Oh yeah, I like that idea.
Yeah.
Like as you were talking right before you said doing like mini coaching sessions, I'm like, I could go on video and do mini coaching sessions. Like
Yeah.
so like from what you were saying before that, I was like, oh, okay, I could leverage that. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah, that's for you. That's going to be the easiest way to leverage it because obviously, people are going to see themselves in a piece of your audience. Like I said, I grew up in Long Island in the suburbs. I didn't really grow up knowing about this whole prejudice thing, or maybe I did, but my parents pretty much well protected me. There's other women like that who are just kind of coming into their space where they're like, oh, so this whole thing about centering, it's been going on all my life, but I didn't realize it, and I'm not going to take it anymore, right? So yeah, so I think when you do that with different people, there's going to be people who can relate to that.
Yes. And I think you're totally right because what you said earlier about me being someone who can get people kind of talking in an
Yeah,
online space, that's hard for people. Like people don't necessarily want to do that in comments. Like they don't
right,
necessarily want to dive in and reveal themselves like in front of whoever else might be looking at these comments. But pulling, so it can be hard to kind of demonstrate that that's a thing that I do is I can get you like opening up and diving into your deeper things
exactly.
in that online space, but having that on video or bringing people in to do like mini sessions or something and having that on video, that's a way where people can actually see it.
Oh yeah, it's impactful.
And I like being on video and people tell me
I
that like, people tell me
know.
that like I'm good on video. They're like, wow, we can really like see you and get a feel for you in a way that like we can't on paper or even like, they're like audio is good, but like video, we really get a feel for you. So I think,
And
like,
you're warm and you're beautiful and you're open. Like even when
thank
like
you.
obviously you see me online, I'm like, I'm really a wuss. Like people are there like, oh my God, you're so bold. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm super laid back. So when clients work with me, obviously they're attracted to me because of, what I do, but they're just like, oh, okay, I'm not really afraid of you. So yeah. I think when people see you online having the conversations, it changes the perspective.
Yeah. So it sounds like there's an element of like, one, knowing what your it factor is, and then knowing where you're good in like social media. Like I'm good on video.
Yeah.
People like me on video. Other people are really good in written, like in written formats. And so that might be a way for them to leverage it. So knowing like where it is that you're good, like where it is that people really respond to you, but also what your it factor is and how to bring those two things together. Like, how do we make these two things come together in a way that's
Exactly.
really going to show people what your it factor is?
Right. Yeah.
This is making
Oh,
so much more sense. I feel
I
like I
love it.
sort of knew this in like scattered pieces of business information I've collected over the years and just been
Right.
like, I don't get it. How do I put it together?
Right.
And now it's like having it in this way is like allowing me to like see it in a different way.
Right.
Ah,
And I think especially when it comes to your it factor, the things you're more passionate about, it comes through a lot more to the audience, because you can see there's a difference between certain posts where you're just like, next, next, next. And then other people that you're just like, you sit up straight and you want to read it each time. So I think obviously the key is to always just, come from that space where I've kind of switched. I post a lot, but I decided I'm switching from this place where I'm posting a lot because I'm like, oh, I need to post, to when I really have something to say or when things come to me. Because when I'm lying still, like, early in the morning, things start to come to me. And that's when people are like, oh my God, are you reading my mind? That really speaks to me. So I think, there's a level of, you want to have a level of scarcity too. I don't do it myself. It's, for me, it's listen to what I say. Don't follow what I do. But there's also a level of scarcity where they look forward to, you coming live and doing the mini coaching sessions, just like Oprah does once a week or whatever. But I know I never read any of her stuff, but I'll watch her, when she goes on video, I'll watch the interviews. So.
And see, that's the thing is people will find you in different ways. So like you don't read her stuff, but you find her in interviews, and other people like might listen to a podcast or might be reading her magazine. And so, I mean, not that I have 100 different avenues because I'm solopreneuring this.
Right.
But it's like, all right, what is at least an avenue to start with,
Right.
But then even doing video, it's like I could put video on my YouTube, but I've also got like Instagram where people are seeing different posts or they might see a snippet or something. And exactly. So it's like you can get people seeing you in different ways and through different avenues, or like the podcast, people are hearing me on the podcast. So right. I think that's something that's valuable, and one of the ways that I've tried to kind of leverage is sort of like repurposing or like cross-platform posting. Like I have this podcast that's audio, but I also have the video on my YouTube.
Right.
So that people who want to watch the video can watch it there. So, there's different places that you can put things. If I wanted to, I could transcribe the episodes and put it on my blog. I'm not going to do that. I'm not doing that till I could pay someone to do it, because I am not transcribing this.
That's a lot of work. Yeah.
That is a lot of work. And that's something that's going to have to wait. But later on, that's something I could do. And that could be really good for people who maybe can't hear, or, since I don't have captions either. That's something I hire somebody for too. I'm not trying to be ableist. I want to be available to everyone. But transcribing would be something that would make it, even more accessible to people who have to look for different avenues as well.
Right. Sounds good.
Yeah. So are there any like key mistakes that people make that you see when it comes to leveraging their it factor? Like some of the things that I mentioned, we're trying to fit in or trying to fit into certain spaces, but like, what are some like key things that maybe people should be wary of not doing?
I think I'll say what probably they are doing, what they shouldn't be doing. I see a lot of people who, because I have this, I guess it's an ability where I can, when I see someone's post and I kind of see who they are, I'm like, wow, this is an amazing direction that they're heading. But the thing with the online space is, even though people are reading your post, not everyone's going to interact and not everyone's going to like your stuff. But I have people who show up on my calendar. I'm like, oh, how did you hear about me? They're like, oh, I've been following you for 3 months. Not one like. So what I see, the big mistake that I see someone doing, and when they're showing up very powerfully and they're not getting probably, they may get engagement, they're probably not getting conversions, it sounds like. They switch into something else that they think everyone, like the big thing one time was like, everyone has a Facebook ads agency. I'm like, you don't even like doing Facebook ads, but they think that's what they need to do.
That was me. Like 2 years ago, I was like, oh, let me get these Facebook ads out. And I'm like, and then like at the end of last year, I'm like, I don't even like being on Facebook. Why am I trying to leverage through Facebook? I don't even like this. Let me go where I actually like being.
Right. So
but that's like, you gotta have Facebook ads.
That's what everyone's doing. But yeah, that's one of the big things that I see people doing, because it's almost like we've been conditioned that, the business and success is instant oatmeal. I call it. It's not instant. It's steel cut. It takes a while. You have to cook it. You have to simmer it. You have to nurture it. You have to stir it. And then people will start to come to you. But they're watching. They're just, and another thing, for someone who doesn't realize the gift they have, either maybe, I don't know whether someone told them sometime in their life or currently online that, oh, you'll never be successful, or that no one's interested, or that doesn't matter. So they don't like show enough of their gift. They show everything else, but they don't show enough of their gift. So those are the two, there's obviously a lot of things, but those are the two main things that I see that people are doing when they kind of like lose themselves.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Any other like words of wisdom? Well, actually, I have a question about that, about what you said. So how do you know if you're like not getting results, or you're not getting the results you want? How do you know when it is time to switch things up?
I don't know if you have to switch. Well, okay, let's first, I want to kind of give you an idea of how to identify what your it factor is. So say you have, most of us typically, we give advice to family and friends, and a lot of people say, wow, this has been really impactful. Like, how do you even know this stuff? And you're just like, it's just something I know. So when you get that type of feedback, for whether you're given free advice, whether you have a coaching client and you really got results for them, when you get that type of feedback, you should never switch it up. Like, it's going to work out. Maybe you kind of switch up your position, and maybe you put out, because the thing about that I find with a lot of people, when they appear online and they say things are not working out, I'm like, well, how many offers have you put out this week? Oh, I don't put out offers. Well, how do you know that people are interested? And I did that. I did the same because I just like sharing stuff. I did the same thing when I first came online, where I would just like share content. One day, this lady said to me, are you a coach? Do you ever take any clients? And I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, but we assume that people know because we're online, right? So I think once you have identified, or people will identify your it factor for you, I don't think it's important to switch it up. I don't think you have to switch it up. I think you have to switch up how your offer that you put out. I think you can switch up your positioning. I think you can switch up how you package yourself, but I don't think you should switch up what you do.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Or like, what about what you do in the online space? If you're like, this is my it factor, but like I'm making these posts on Instagram, but they're not really getting me anywhere. Like, how do you know when you need to switch up maybe posting on Instagram, or how you're posting, or maybe switching platforms, or do you just stick there?
It could be the messaging.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about it, it's so strange, and I don't know how this. I'm in this. I work with this. He's like a multi-billion-dollar coach. He has a client. This guy has made 7 figures teaching people how to do handstands. So, I mean, it's the messaging. It's really being able to connect with your audience. I think, especially as creatives, when we get I was speaking with this lady who, I mean, just amazingly brilliant. And she wants to start an image consultancy business. She was like, well, no one really charges a lot, and no one's really successful at that. I'm like, well, they're creatives. You can't really follow what someone else is doing, because they may not know the business end, and they may not know how to position and package themselves. So I think, when I first got online, I didn't know the whole thing about coaching and why it was important. But I think it's important to actually get someone in your space who's going to guide you along the way, because they can look at your posts and they can look at what you're putting out there. And they're like, no, you're heading in the right direction, but your message is probably not connecting. Mm-hmm. If you're working with, say, athletes who are high performance athletes, and they're looking for this, you're not going to talk to them about milk and cookies. You're going to talk to them about, you're an athlete, I don't know, but you're not going to talk to them about something that has no connection in their mind. You're going to have conversations about Serena. You're going to have conversations about LeBron, because that's what they connect with. So it's really about making sure your message hits home to the people and what they typically think about or what they typically watch.
Okay. Yeah. I feel like that's sometimes where I am challenged, but I'm working on it.
Well, you just have to think about
sorry, what were you saying?
No, I was saying you just have to think about who you were maybe 5 years ago, and or maybe who you are now, and even the challenges that you're going through now, because others are going through that same challenge.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not going to say it's easy, but if you really kind of step back and it's not, you don't think that it's all, you can even, you can even reach out to people and ask them, can we hop on a call? I'd love to see what you're going through, and I'd love to see, and it's really about using their words, because they're going to connect more with their words than your own. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think most people are on the right track. It's their messaging, it's their positioning, and sometimes their offer. Because I remember having a conversation with someone who's like, yeah, I work with overwhelmed, stressed out individuals. And she had like a 6-month, 7-module program. I'm like, if they're stressed out and overwhelmed, can you give them a 4-week program where they're just meeting with you once a week and then that's that? Because who wants a program with 7 modules for 6 months? So I think that's really putting yourself in their position and understanding what they're really going through to cater to their needs.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I think what you said about having a coach or having someone there to guide you is really important, because that's something that I haven't really had. I mean, I had at points last year, but I haven't really had like a coach with me guiding me and building the business. And I think that's actually been one of my biggest mistakes. Or I wouldn't say mistakes, because I feel like I learned a lot, but I think that's been one of the biggest things holding me back, is that I don't have someone that is guiding me. And it's like, so one of my goals in the next 6 months is like to save up the money to hire a business coach who's like, all right, show me how to do this. Show me, because on the coaching side, I feel so good. I love what I do. Like I feel really good about the results that I get clients. But on the business side, sometimes I'm like, how am I supposed to do this?
Right.
How do I live? How does the algorithm work? Like, sometimes I feel a little bit lost on like the actual business building side of it. And then then I can't get to the coaching side of it. The coaching side of it, it's like the people that I've helped, they're like, wow, this was fantastic, or this is amazing. But it's the business side of it. So like, that's one of my goals, is like to go and to save the money and like actually hire a business coach. And I think that is so helpful. But also you gotta have the right coach, because sometimes like you have to have a coach that's gonna help you build the business the way you want to, not just like be necessarily a carbon copy of what they did, or be like, okay, only do what I'm doing. And it's like, but I don't want to be on in this space, or I don't want to be doing this thing. I want to, like these are the places that I want to play or grow. Like if I had a coach who was like, okay, you have to be on Facebook and you have to be doing this, then the other, and X, Y, and Z, I'd be like, I almost don't even want my Facebook account. Like I still have it and it's fine, but it's like, if I have a coach who's like, you have to build through Facebook, I'd be like, I bet you I don't. And I bet you I'm going to find somebody who's going to tell me, who's going to teach me how to not build it through Facebook and build it through these other avenues that I want.
Right.
So I think it's also really important to find someone who will actually guide you in a way that allows you to grow your business like you, and not.
And that takes, that takes smarts, and that takes experience, because I think the whole, there's this whole cookie cutter model where this is my vision based on what I did. And I did Facebook Lives every day. Suppose you're deathly afraid of Facebook Lives, you're going to fail, because no one wants to see someone like, super, super nervous and shaking and stuttering. Do maybe audio, but I think the hard thing, and it takes, if you do Facebook Lives over time, you'll get better, obviously.
Oh yeah.
But if that's not your thing and you absolutely hate it, I don't think anyone should be doing Facebook Lives. If you're an amazing storyteller, I mean, content is going to be your best friend. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
play to your strengths, and having someone who will teach you how to play to your strengths. I think that's so important, because when I started, I was like, okay, Facebook, and even last year, which was not when I started, but like even a year ago, it's like, here's how you leverage these groups, and here's how you interact in groups. And I was like, wow, I really hate being in these Facebook groups. now that I've tried that strategy, I really hate this.
Exactly. That's confirmed.
A little bit miserable, and I feel like I'm wasting my day.
Right.
I'd much rather be doing something else, almost anything else.
Right.
So it's like you got to find the areas that work for you, and then the right person to teach you how to use those avenues.
Right. And since you love speaking, maybe speaking is your thing. You could even do some free speaking opportunities and get clients from there. So there's a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways. And I think sometimes we forget that there are so many different ways to build a business. And either we forget there's so many different ways and we want to like follow what somebody else did, or we get overwhelmed by the many different ways and we're like, let me follow what somebody else did.
Exactly.
And I think in the beginning, it takes a little like figuring out where you really shine and what you really like, because the two have to go together. Like I was doing a lot of Facebook Lives. I'm really good at Facebook Live. I just don't like being on Facebook that much. I don't want to leverage it anymore. So like I'll do the occasional one, but it's like where you stand out and what you actually like and using those to leverage, as you said, leverage your it factor.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you so much. That's about the time for today, but let us know, tell everybody where they can find you and where they can connect with you.
They can find me under Deborrah Ashley on Facebook, but I also have a 20-minute, just a mini training on how to pretty much it's leverage your it factor, but stand out as an authority to get clients. And it's on the brandauthoritysecrets.com.
Excellent. All right. Thank you so much. And you're on Instagram too, right? Because I think I see
Yes, I am on Instagram under leverage your it factor.
Leverage your it factor. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing this wisdom. You definitely gave me some nuggets that I'm going to think about. I'm like, ooh, how can I implement this? So like, I'm already feeling like juiced up and inspired, and I'm hoping that the entrepreneurs, and honestly, even like the creatives who are not entrepreneurs, or artists out there, like you guys can leverage these things too. Like, what are the things that actually distinguish you? Where are the places that you shine? Bring those things together and leverage your it factor. So thank you so much for joining me for this episode.
Thanks, Kristen. I'll chat with you soon.
There you have it, some insider secrets and how to leverage your it factor, especially for you entrepreneurs out there. And here's the thing about your it factor. It means that you have to really cozy up, embrace, own, and let the thing that makes you special actually shine. You have to embrace it and let it be out there in the world. And that's powerful. So before you go, head over to kristeniris.com/vision to get your free workbook and video guide, Create Your Future Vision, which is going to help you get an idea of where you want to take your business, where you want to take your life, and to start bringing that into your life now so that you can take massive action towards that. Now, before you go, please do me a favor, if you haven't already, and leave a review on iTunes. If you're enjoying this show, it is the best way to help others find us and join in on these powerful conversations so that they can create powerful change in their lives too. And make sure you subscribe wherever you listen to this show or to my YouTube channel so you can get more episodes. And as always, stand in your power, stand in your color, and stand for what you create.